It's interesting to note that this is the Vasey Cemetery in Vasey, Ontario. So I'm going to assume that this grave has something to do with that. Kind of raining here today, so I'm trying my best to keep my phone dry. I believe this fellow here, John Rumney, was one of the early settlers in this area. William and Ada. Brown. Adele. It's starting to rain even harder now. I'm getting kind of wet. facing the opposite way to all the other stones. So just for some background, that is Vasey over there. It's basically just a church and I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 houses. Years ago there was a general store, I know that much, because the building is still there. This is pretty much just a farming community. Most of the people buried in this cemetery were probably farmers. Now of course some of them would have had jobs in Midland, which isn't too far away, or Portmanickle, which is I don't know, probably about 10 miles to the north. But for the most part, this is a farming community. Here's more Rumneys. Again, they were early settlers here. Their farm is, well, the Rumney homestead farm is just, I don't know, I think, yeah, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles to the north of the cemetery here. A lot of Browns here too in the cemetery, although I don't know anything about the Brown family. Although from the number of Browns, I'm going to guess that they were also an early family. That's the older section of the cemetery over there, and I can see a Brown over there. And I'm pretty sure there's a couple other ones out there too that I remember from the past. It's starting to rain pretty good again. Getting my phone wet. I think I might have missed this one because it's kind of in a row all its own. The cemetery is laid out in pretty neat rows, but for some reason there's one stone kind of in between. It's laid out with the oldest section is on the western side, and as you go east towards Vasey, the stones generally get newer. It's not a particularly old cemetery. I mean, there's stones that go back, I think, well, certainly, I guess, to the 1880s, 1890s. But this area wasn't settled. This whole part of Ontario, for the most part, wasn't settled very early. I mean, there were sporadic settlements. St. Marie among the Hurons isn't far from here, and that was a Jesuit mission back in the 1600s. So there were Europeans here very early, but the real settlement up here didn't get underway until the late 1800s. Some of the communities nearby, Midland, Portman-Nickel, Victoria Harbour, they were booming industrial communities, you know, 1890s, early 1900s, logging, railroads, shipbuilding, that kind of thing. Here's another brown. Captain Milton L. Jones. Yeah. Could have been a steamboat captain around here. We tend to call them steamboats, but basically the big Great Lakes freighters. It's not much of it goes on around here anymore, but at one time, Midland, Portman-Nickel, they were fairly important ports of call on the Great Lakes. But there isn't much of that anymore. Wow, that one's pretty hard to read. It needs to have the moss, or I should say the lichen, scraped off of it. This is Jones, Jones, Ronald something, I can't read that, Ronald something. Looks like it might be an E-L-L. Could be Elliot, I'm not sure. Beloved something. Yeah, I can't even pick out any dates. I'm sure they're there underneath. You can feel them under the lichen. This is a newer part of the cemetery, so you know, judging by the stones around it, 2006, 2005, you know, probably dates from, I think this one here, which is Finch Jones, that says 1999, I believe, over there. And that's the end of this row. Apparently that fella was, I think that means he was a Mason, I believe. Don't really know my Masonic symbols, but I think that was a Masonic symbol. And I believe I did that row already. Yes, I did this row on a previous video. So that is it for this side of the cemetery. Now, except for there's a few graves on the other side of the road. There's a little road there. There's a few graves over there, so maybe I'll walk over and do them.